Hello, everyone. This is the Tennessee Freedom Alliance with your host, Alexander Horat. Today, we're joined by Tom Hatcher. He's the District 2 state senator from Tennessee. Hello, Tom. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, Alexander. I appreciate you asking me.
Yeah, thank you. So, Tom, could you tell the audience a little bit about your background?
Yeah, I've been in county government for a little over 40 years. Started out as in law enforcement with the Blount County Sheriff's Department, served there for approximately 10 years. Worked in several different capacities there. Uh, Last was running the narcotics unit task force in Blount County. And then in 94, I was elected as the court clerk for Blount County and served 30 years as court clerk. And then ran last year and District 2 and was elected to the state senate.
Yeah, that's great. So, what made you want to run for state senate?
Well, I've been clerk for 30 years and you sort of know when it's your time to start stepping back. And when I was approached to run for senate, I prayed about it and talked to my wife about it and decided, I really wasn't ready to completely quit. And I've been in public service all my life. So this was a different way that I could still help people in a different manner. So we decided to take this on.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, when you were in the narcotics division, was there a really big problem with drugs in Tennessee, or was it?
Yeah, but it was totally different back. Of course, this was back in the 80s. I'm telling my age a little bit here, but back in the 80s, we dealt with more of cocaine, LSD, and marijuana back in those days.
Oh, that makes sense. So
Yeah.
is fentanyl becoming more of a big problem? I know it's really bad in the West Coast. Has it really driven into Tennessee as much?
Yeah, fentanyl is really a big problem. I think not just in Tennessee or other, it's worldwide right now. It's phenomenal, and it's not just fentanyl. It's the things that they use to mix with fentanyl, and that you don't know what you're getting when you get fentanyl. You
That's
don't know what capacity it is, or how strong it is, how much it's been cut, or what it's laced with, or any of those type things. So it's absolutely just unbearable, for citizens here in Tennessee and the United States.
so is there any measures the state government can do to try to stop the flow from fentanyl, or is it really the federal government's job to do that?
Well, it's basically federal government from stopping it to come in, with what, of course, President Trump is doing now with some of the boats and taking them out and keeping, fentanyl and other things getting into the United States. Once it gets here, then it comes to, you know, state level and local levels, and we can pass bills that enhances uh, the what the crime is and how much time they spend in jail and those type things. But the big thing is trying to keep it off the streets, and that's really really hard to do.
So from everything that you've seen, is it mostly illegal aliens that are perpetrating these crimes, or is it a lot of them actual U.S. citizens?
No, I mean there are a lot of illegal aliens that's involved in this, but you have a lot of gangs, gangs that's involved in the drug business and that, and local people. It's all about the dollar,
Yeah.
and it's a quick turnaround in making money. So, if you can make a lot of these people can make money doing that, they take the risk of getting caught and spending time in the penitentiary and that's something that we can look at, from a state level to be able to enhance what our laws are and how much time they spend and those type things.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I know you've only been a state senator not for too long, but I was just wondering what bills you have been doing in the state senate that you tried last year to get passed.
Well, as a freshman, you really don't do a lot of bills your first year. There's one that I did last year a lot of mine was basically in public safety. I'll be looking at and things that happen in local governments and state government. I serve on state and local government committee as the second chair, and everything that comes through that committee affects policies and regulations and those type things for counties in the state. So it'll be bills that helping counties with their situations that they have and that. But one bill I was really proud of last year that I was able to do. Alabama had passed this law a couple of years ago. We have a law now that you can use calming dogs in interview with teenagers and people that's involved in domestic violence cases.
Mm.
But what we did is we enhanced that bill and got the bill passed that if a judge will allow, they're allowed to have that calming dog with that juvenile that's in court. The dog can be up there with them on the witness stand. And of course, with the data from Alabama shown that these young people will talk more and give you more information and that with that calming dog there, because what they do is while the dog is there, they're petting it. They have a handler with it, of course, at all times. And as they relax more and that, they talk more and give you more information. So we got that bill passed last year, and I know a lot of the groups that work with young people in abuse cases and those type things are using that, and they were very supportive of this bill passing, and I'm very proud it passed unanimously.
Oh, that's
So hopefully we're going to see some in the next couple of years some data from that and see how it's helped in the prosecution of people that take advantage of our young people.
yeah, I really think it's terrible how people take advantage of young people these days,
Absolutely.
do some really horrendous things. So I,
Yeah, and then with it, we've got a few bills this year we're working already. I'm the chair of the oversight committee for Department of Corrections in the Senate, and we have a large problem with drugs being contraband being snuck into our penitentiaries and those type of things.
mm,
And one of the bills I'm going to do, try to get passed, is a pilot program in Trousdale Penitentiary with body cams. Right now, there's no penitentiaries in the state of Tennessee that use body cams inside uh, our penitentiaries. So Trousdale has got a private contract with Core Civics, and we've been in discussions with them about this, and we've drafted a bill. We haven't filed it yet, but would allow body cameras to be worn in Trousdale. So hopefully we're going to get that bill, and then it's crazy, but drones, there's a lot of things out there that people use drones for. And one of the things they're using it for is they're flying over the courtyards of the penitentiaries where the inmates go out to get, out in the yard to exercise and get sunlight and those type of things. So we're having drones to drop contraband. So we're passing, hopefully, we drafted a bill that we're calling our no-fly bill that the penitentiaries will be able to enable these drones that are flying over grounds of the penitentiary to stop a lot of that from happening.
wow, that seems
So that's
pretty bold.
yeah, that's a couple of bills that we're working on through my committee and that. I'm really involved in with the veterans, and my wife was a veteran service officer in Blount County for 34 years. So I've always been supportive of our veterans and tried to help them. And one of the things that, excuse me, one of the things I noticed going into our state parks, we have handicap parking spaces available, but we didn't have any parking spaces for our veterans.
Hmm.
So I had drafted a bill to and make sure that there is a parking spot like at the restaurants or the golf courses and that. But talking with TDEC and that, we've been able to work that out through policy now through them, and they've already started posting or will start posting these parking spaces here in the next month or so. So we've got that one to take care of our veterans. You and I wouldn't be sitting here today if it wasn't for our veterans that's given their lives and stuff for our freedom. So I'm very supportive of our veterans at any time.
I'm really glad that you're supporting our veterans. I think it's really too bad how a lot of them have a lot of mental health issues after they've seen war, which is understandable, and a lot of them are homeless. So, do you think anything can be done to help the homeless veterans?
Well, I think what President Trump and them are doing federally is helping some. Of course, it's the problem is that you've got to want to have help, and a lot of our veterans have been out on their own for so long, and that their pride is so big, it's hard to get them to accept a lot of help. There's a lot of help out there, a lot of individual, independent groups and stuff that are willing to help. So I think you're going to you're excuse me, you're going to see more of that now, more and more because of what President Trump and his folks in Washington are trying to get done.
I see. Yeah, so I should have asked you this earlier, but as a new senator, what's going to be like your overarching goals? What are the biggest things that you want to accomplish as a state senator in your career as that?
Well, I really don't have any personal goals. The biggest thing for me is being able to help the people when they need help. Um, when we get emails and phone calls and text messages about issues that's going on with families and those type things from our local governments and stuff to be able to help back home in our districts and that. So, my goal is just to be available and to make sure that I'm doing what my people in my district want me to do.
Yeah, that's good. So one thing that I wanted to ask you was in relation to property taxes. So one thing that I've seen, unfortunately, is that people can't own their own home. Basically, the government owns it because you have to pay a property tax every year. So I was thinking for people who are low income or don't have that much money, what do you think of getting rid of property taxes for people's primary residence? Not like a big corporation that owns hundreds of houses, of course, but just for an average person to have their primary residence without property taxes. What's your thoughts on that?
I really hadn't even thought about that. That's a good question. There are things out there to help low income people as far as discounts on their property taxes. I know that we passed bills here in the Senate to help veterans that's 100% disabled and that to help them with their property taxes and what they have to pay and stuff. Uh, that's something I'd have to think about, uh, and talk to some folks back home to see how that would affect things back there. So I really, that's something I really don't have a answer to today.
Okay, fair enough. Is there any other bills you're going to be working on next year?
I've got a couple I'm working with TWRA on. There's in the state of Tennessee, we do not have a law that makes you title a boat when you buy it, like you do when you buy an automobile. So we're working on a bill right now, and we're still not complete with it. We're still in the process, but it's pretty intense. It's going to be a large bill, several pages long and stuff. We met a little bit today with legal on it and drafting. So it's that's one that we're looking at. That's probably going to be something that's going to be in our forefront here soon.
Okay. So looking ahead, what is the one policy change you believe would most improve the lives of everyday Tennesseans if the legislator acted on it now?
Hmm. Well, I think one of the things in Tennessee that helps our livable standards in that is we don't have an income tax. We voted, and we don't have a state property tax. And we voted last year and changed in the Constitution that we would never, state of Tennessee would never have a property tax, state property tax. So that, that's a couple of things. With not knowing what other legislators are going to file yet, and that it's hard to say what the one thing is. Livability with the process and stuff, because a lot of that is, we don't have any control over as far as in the state. I think what's been happening with the lowering the gas prices and that, and some of the other areas, our interest rate coming down to help people afford housing, and that is big. Uh, Affordable housing, I think, is one of the biggest things that we've got to look at to try to make sure that folks that are living in Tennessee, that are going to school here and graduating here, that we can keep them in Tennessee. And we've got to work on affordable housing is one of the biggest things, I think, coming up in the next few years.
That definitely makes sense because like cities like Nashville are one of the fastest growing cities in the whole United States. So how do you think the state can help with affordable housing and help people be able to become property owners in Tennessee?
If I could answer that question today, I'd probably be governor. Then, it's hard to say what we've got to do. I know there's a lot of studies working with a lot of groups and trying to come up with some formulas to be able to do it. One of the things is a lot of the people that's moving in here from other states. We, because of our income tax and the policies and the procedures that these other states are passing, they're moving here. And what up there, if they owned let's say a $500,000 house, uh, if they move here, that same house here, you could buy for 300,000, but they come down here and pay 450,000 for it, and it's raised the price of real estate around here. And we've got to try to do something to bring that affordable price on housing down, back down to where it should be, where people can afford to buy houses. Young people now, that's getting married at and trying to have a family, and that it's hard for them to buy a house because that they have come in here and raised the value of houses, because they give $150,000 more than what it's really worth, and they're paying cash because they're selling houses in other states that's like I say, 500 to $1 million, and they can come down here and buy one for half price. So they're paying higher prices for it and just paying cash. Uh,
Yeah.
so so that's one of the things we've got to try to work on, is get the housing pricing back down.
So what do you think of cutting red tape and lowering regulations on building houses in Tennessee?
I believe in cutting as many regulations out as we can, but still we've got to be able to make sure what we're doing doesn't hurt the economy, doesn't hurt our environment and those type things. So, we got to be careful. There is a lot of government red tape out there that we can look at, and hopefully, we'll be able to cut some of these regulations over the next few years and that. But that's something you got to be really careful, and not just go cut to be cutting, and taking red tape away from, out of regulations and stuff. You've got to make sure you got a plan and what they're going to affect and who they're going to affect and that before you do it.
It seems like the cities have a lot of discretion on putting red tape up and putting different laws on the books for building houses and stuff like that. Is there anything really the state can do to stop that, or do you think that's something that will remain part of the city's power?
Well, I think a lot of that is coming from your zoning regulations and stuff that's passed by individual counties, and that set up those type things. So, a lot of that is left up to the counties and the cities to do, and the state sort of stays out of that kind of stuff. Sort of like a mandate. When I was when I was in county government and that, I hated for the state to give me a mandate, but yet there's no funding behind it and those type of things. So, you know, I don't want to take away what local folks can do that live there on a daily basis. You have a local government for a reason to regulate and that and operate, on a county level for the people that's there. I think we've got to leave a lot of that stuff up to the locals and the state stay out of it.
I understand. So, what do you think of the farmers? A lot of farmers are having some difficulty due to the tariffs and other things like that. And just farming is having some problems, small and big farms. Is there anything the state can do to help the farmers or not really?
I don't think there's a whole lot we can do. A lot of that again is regulated federally and that, and there's a trend. You see the trend now that you have folks that's in generations that's above me, my generation and stuff that that's been farming all their life are not farming, and once they get out of it, the generations below us are not continuing that. So we're losing a lot of farmland in that, and I think the state can do some things about trying to regulate that to where we're not losing that farmland and green and the green pasture and that type of stuff. But as far as anything, to helping them, most of that stuff is federally regulated to where you can help them, on what they're losing as far as what the tariffs and stuff possibly are doing.
Yeah,
President put several $1 million out there to try to help farmers here a couple of weeks ago. So hopefully that's going to relieve some of their pain. I know it's not going to relieve all of it, but hopefully that and what they're going to be doing, in the future, hopefully will at least let the farmers make a little bit of money instead of losing.
that's definitely important. That's the key to staying in business or not.
Yeah.
So I wanted to take the time to share Tom's website. So Senator Tom Hatcher, District 2, and you can follow him on Facebook. I'm actually following him. He has a lot of great posts and a lot of good information that you can get from his Facebook feed. So definitely follow him on Facebook. And you can also go to his website, Tom Hatcher State Senate, a new voice for Blunt, Monroe, Polk, and Bradley counties. So I think that's great. You can also find out more about him here. Is there anything you'd like to add, Tom?
Well, I've been involved in community all my life. My wife and I started our own charity. It's Tom Hatcher Charity, 12 years ago, and our main goals was to support Alzheimer's Tennessee and the local Boys and Girls Club. And just this past year, we have a golf tournament every year. Just this past year, with tons of help, it takes a village to put this thing on, and people helping and volunteering. We raised around $120,000, and just got through writing checks for 30,000 to Alzheimer's Tennessee and 35,000 to Boys and Girls Club. And in 12 years, we've been able to raise over $1 million and distribute most of that back. We have a board. Nobody gets any money from our charity. It's all free, gratis. So if anybody wants to donate to Tom Hatcher Charity, we have our own Facebook page and that out there. So where any donations that to help Alzheimer's Tennessee and the Boys and Girls Club would be glad to have it.
Yeah, I should have. I'll put that out in the description so people can see that. I should have shared it on my screen here. But I definitely think that's great, Tom, and I really appreciate all the work you're doing for the state. And I'd just like to thank all the viewers for watching this video. And thanks again, Tom, for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. Have a good Christmas.
You too. Merry Christmas to
Right?
everyone, and please subscribe. Thank you all. Goodbye.
Thank you.